Alright guys, welcome to VALORANT News. After major questions on NRG's performance over the last couple of days, they've bounced back emphatically at the final of the SOOP VALORANT League to take a dominant victory against Gen.G in a very reminiscent way of what Sentinels did at this same tournament last year when it was called the Africa TV League. Does this mean that NRG and Sentinels have potentially swapped paths going into the upcoming season? Lots of reaction to the community today for what could well be one of the better teams in the world if Verno keeps playing like this. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. Big tournaments, of course, going down. SOOP VALORANT League is over. There's another one, though, that's now back underway with some other big name teams we're going to discuss in just a couple of seconds here. There was quite a lot going on, though, because we saw the rumours the other day that Riot Games are now going to allow the betting sponsors to come into some of the esports teams. And it's not like this is a new thing to esports. I know that Zelsis talks about it a fair bit and gives his perspective on, what it means for the sustainability of the ecosystem. Of course, it's always going to be controversial stuff, this, but like Zelsis says, don't think I'm living in a Mickey Mouse world. Obviously nothing is perfect, so we'll see where that goes. I always find these things kind of interesting, right, because you get some sort of announcement or at least a leak on the matter, and then obviously people start talking about it. Riot Games might therefore see the reaction, and whether they do or do not change their mind, I guess we'll see. But let's talk about this Riot Games 1 tournament, which has just begun over the last couple of days or so, and FNATIC have been getting involved in that one. Some very interesting games here, I will say, because of these matches played, some of them were an absolute demolition job. Like this one, FNATIC played Zeta Division, they smoked them 13-2 on the Pearl. Mainly it was just a dominant defensive start, mainly from Alpha, who was an absolute force to be reckoned with. I mean, on the defensive side, he was 14-4, and then he went 8-0 on their attack to close out the rounds immediately. So, yeah, he had a dominant showing there. But it's not like Zeta have been terrible, and it's not like FNATIC have been unbeatable, because, of course, this is the FNATIC with, well, Sayonara still in the roster, but Crashies, we know, is coming soon, and Crashies actually played in this one. So, yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? They've still got Sayonara there, but he's not old enough to play once the season actually gets underway. So Crashies is going to be their man to replace Leo. Maybe not forever. Well, hopefully not forever in Leo's case, right? But obviously, for now, FNATIC have decided to make that move as a potential more longer-term option if Leo isn't fit and ready to return. It's still unclear exactly what's going on there behind the scenes. But FNATIC then played Lev on an Abyss, a long one, a hard-fought affair. The first half was 8-4 to FNATIC. Lev then bounced back with the same on the second side, and then they won it in the overtime. So 14-12 to Leviathan in the end. That new roster, King, Natank, Com, Tex, and then Demon 1 rounding out the team. And Demon 1 on the Jet is looking pretty tasty as it stands. Definitely a deserved victory there for Lev. If you look at the numbers, it's almost a bit of a surprise this even got to overtime. But Leviathan did enough when it mattered to get over the line in that one. And we also had this, a Detonation Focus Me Gaming. They played an Abyss again. FNATIC took the dub on this one. A solid defensive half, and then they closed it out on the attack, actually. Another good map here from Alpha, and Crashies again. A better map this time on the Sova, 14-15. That's pretty much where we find ourselves for now. So FNATIC went 2-1 after all the matches were played. Lev lost to DFM, lost to Zeta, but then beat FNATIC. So, yeah, all kind of confusing, really, in terms of how this resulted. But, yeah, all best-of-1 series. I'll just look at those ones real quick, I suppose, because obviously Lev, this team is meant to be looking pretty good, but they went down to DFM, who, of course, have been looking much better lately, but still kind of remarkable. And then they got smoked by Zeta 13-7 on the split, but then they bounced back and beat FNATIC, so it was all kind of confusing. But the final matchup, of course, Zeta versus DFM, is looking like it's about to be over in a couple of seconds. So yeah, the battle of the Chinese region still seems to be dominated by Zeta Division for now. But those are your round-robin games, and it looks like, with Zeta probably getting the victory against DFM, it's going to be those two teams at 2-1 to close out the tournament there for now. And obviously, this is one of the moments here from early on in the FNATIC versus Zeta game, where Alpha had a pretty disgusting 1 versus 3 here on the Pearl. Of course, Pearl back in the map pool. We're seeing lots of Abyss happening lately, but of course, there have been some changes, and likely there still will be some changes. But yeah, that was certainly a round from Alpha right about there. Yeah, looks like FNATIC and Zeta are going to be on 2-1 teams to close out that tournament. Let's talk about this SOOP VALORANT League. So let's not forget, this tournament was the same, the SOOP.live, whatever they're called, was a rebrand of last year's Africa TV V-League tournament, which Sentinels won, and then of course they went on to win Masters Madrid shortly afterwards, because that kind of proved they were arguably the team to beat in World Valorant. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that NRG are going to go on and dominate the season, not like Sentinels did precisely, but if you win this tournament, it's a challenging tournament to win. There are lots of games. You have to go very deep into the tournament. There are so many top teams at this event. Winning it is very impressive and has been shown to be the case last year as well. This victory is something that NRG will be writing home about, as will other teams, I'd imagine, around the world as well, because they take the victory here in pretty emphatic fashion in the end. Now, Made in Thailand put up a serious fight. These guys were so impressive, I thought. They won the Haven against NRG when they played them in the semi-finals, 13-10, and then NRG bounced back, 13-10 on their Pearl, on Made in Thailand's Pearl, and then the Ascent went 13-5 in the end. Verno was 16-3, Ethan was 26-9, Marta was 14-7. Now, look, this NRG roster is incredibly talented. They have an in-game leader in FNS, who it seems is doing a very good job of maximizing where this team currently is. But Verno has been the standout player. His numbers are categorically absurd, I would say, in many respects, since he's joined this roster. He was excellent on Oxygen Esports last year. We talked about him very frequently. But for him to have taken this level of step up is remarkable, and like, his numbers are so good, it's like ridiculous. On the other side of the bracket, Gen.G took down DRX with a reasonably comfortable 2-0. Texture played very well. The Battle of Korea goes Gen.G's way. 13-3, dominant on the Pearl. The Bind wasn't quite as dominant, but still 13-9. DRX will be gutted after they dominated the first half and then just got crushed on the second. Texture with a massive game takeover again. So, yeah, DRX, they're good, they're okay, they're not as good as Gen.G. But Gen.G, they're good, but they're not as good as NRG, it seems, as it stands. FNS, of course, was happy that they got the victory against what would have just been MITH, right, rather than the auto-correction that came through. This, I thought, was pretty funny. NRG are tweeting out, look, maybe it was Artis who was the problem after all the drama. Of course, they took down Bilibili Gaming, they took down Made in Thailand, they made it all the way to the grand finals. Artis was ready for their downfall. But that's not what happened at all. Here we are at the SOOP Valorant League, and here is NRG getting the victory at the end of the tournament. They honestly kind of demolished Gen.G here in the grand finals. And as you guys know, I don't think that Gen.G are as good as they were previously compared to the changes they made last year, but the manner in which NRG, after struggling in the start of this tournament, came back and improved match by match by match to the point where they could 3-0 and effectively just brush aside Gen.G, who are always going to be a very competitive team, was incredibly impressive. A 3-0 very rapidly. I mean, the Abyss was 13-4 on the pick of Gen.G. Verno was 17-6 on the Sova. Like, Verno genuinely is on pace, if he keeps this up, to become one of the greatest ever initiators. Like, this guy, since he's debuted, has like barely had a bad series, and they 13-11'd them on the Haven after a bit of a comeback from Gen.G, didn't go anywhere, and then the Ascent again on Gen.G's pick, 13-4. I mean, how many teams in the world can do this to Gen.G? Yeah, it was a bad day for them, but Verno 18-5 on the final map, and over the course of the series, Verno was plus 34, 56-22, 1.68 rating. 90% cast, like, just ridiculous. And it wasn't just Verno, like, he's getting a lot of the credit today, but FNS deserves credit for in-game leading this roster. Someone Ethan played well. Marda has been excellent as well. I mean, this first blood rate is very impressive. I mean, look at Texture. 2-13 first blood rate. Got destroyed. So as they say, excited about this, the Gen.G boys. They took down Rapid Lofi. They took down Myth. They took down Gen.G. And they won the SOOP Valorant LAN. And FNS is happy about it as well. The champions of the SOOP Valorant League. Obviously, Ethan was talking about this yesterday. Jorgamo is giving him a lot of credit, and understandably, for very good reasons. And yeah, Ethan back on top. They take the victory at the start of the season. As he says, extremely high quality tournament. And the question now really is, where do NRG go from here? Because they've shown this type of level back at the Sen City Classic. They came out to this tournament, looked pretty shaky at the start, but the more and more they played, the better and better they looked, to the point where they're playing Gen.G in the finals, and, Verno's absolutely slamming them. So this is the question. This time last year, Sentinels won the Africa TV tournament, and after winning this, they were considered to be by some the best team in the world. They were certainly right up there. there, and it was difficult to really say too much otherwise at the time. Then they went on to win Masters Madrid at the start of the season. So is there a similar fate destined here for NRG? They've just won, the SOOP Valorant League, basically, and they're going to turn up to Masters Bangkok, if they qualify, in the relatively near future, potentially trying to defend, the title that the Americas won at the first event of Masters last season. So intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below, but just to have a look at this real quick, these were the top performers of the last couple of tournaments that NRG have played. The Sen City Classic, Verno was the highest rated player. The SOOP Valorant League, he was the highest rated player by a mile, especially when you consider that Flashback, who was also very good, played 136 rounds. Verno played 290 rounds. To maintain a 1.7 KD across 290 rounds of Valorant is ridiculous. No other player in the tournament was getting close to that kind of production. We know what he was doing in Tier 2, but now he's seriously delivering in Tier 1, and if he can maintain the confidence, NRG are going to be a serious problem for the Valorant League this season. So hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.